Well, just a few days after the BRICS summit, South Africa and China have wasted no time and they've signed a Memorandum of Cooperation. South Africa's electricity crisis is one that needs urgent intervention and assistance. Let's get some more reaction now from Business, Environment and Energy Manager at BUSA. That's Business Unity South Africa. Happy Kambule joins me now to talk about this. Good afternoon, Happy. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for joining us. From a BUSA perspective, do you know any ideas about how this deal between South Africa and China practically means what's going to be happening on the ground when it comes to our power supply?
Thank you for the opportunity. So what we do know, and I think some of the details will come as more agreements that are specific to some of the aspects of the agreement are discussed or rather are implemented. But we do know that it is around some of the refurbishment of power stations in terms of critical equipment that is necessary to keep some of the power stations going in order to alleviate load shedding. And secondly, it's in the form of greater participation of Chinese companies through the cooperation agreement in making sure that we do have necessary supplies, not only of components, but also of energy. So they will start participating much more directly within the actual electricity supply industry.
Yeah, there are two parts to what I've seen, the reports I've seen. There's a donation of about 100-odd million to help with some immediate electricity needs in the country. And then there's a R500 million grant of sorts. Any details there that you as business are aware of? Are you going to benefit?
Well, we hope that the broader business community of South Africa is going to be benefiting in terms of not only the supply chains that will need to be activated in order to get many of the supplies that are there, but also that local manufacturing and localization is actually achieved. But I think at the outset is that this is not a different kind of deal than what, or rather a cooperation agreement, let me not say deal. This is not a different kind of cooperation agreement than what we've already signed with other countries such as Germany and France and the EU states. So it's something that is normal. It's just not a normal course of events where we have a South-South, where we have a developing country and a developing country coming out with a cooperation agreement, which also has a grant in kind or a grant that is stipulated as part of the cooperation agreement. So we still need to see what the necessary dynamics are going to look like in terms of the implementation, but definitely we'll be tracking the fact that local manufacturing, particularly of the components that are key, are used, and that the necessary rules of supply and procurement are actually still observed.
Yeah, I mean, you oversee environment and energy matters for BUSA. That's what you do on a day-to-day basis. What would you want to see as the urgent next steps coming out of this cooperation agreement, especially in addressing our energy crisis?
Well, the first thing we need to see is that the critical components in our power stations that have been missing or that have been necessarily priced out from what Eskom particularly can afford are produced, and that those are facilitated. Where there is a gridlock or a deadlock in terms of negotiations with particular suppliers, that this provides the necessary leverage for the Minister of Electricity and also government to be able to procure the necessary parts. And then moving further ahead is that the systems that we're already employing in South Africa, not normally around tracking of power usage, normally around the transmission readiness program, that those are actually implemented. So the next steps are, let's get the parts in, let's alleviate the impact of load shedding on society and companies. And then the next step is that, well, what can we do to ensure that this cooperation agreement doesn't just end with the short-term benefits of alleviating load shedding, but creating the necessary electricity supply industry that we're transitioning to. So that's going to be quite key for us to actually see that whatever the R500 million has been put aside is going to lead us into this new electricity supply industry, where we have a competitive market, where we have a strong distribution and a strong transmission network. So if this set of funds are actually put in place for particularly those reasons, then I think we will be starting to see that this cooperation alongside all the others are contributing to the security of supply that we need.
So basically, you are hoping, as BUSA, that part of this money will be to build the renewable energy sources.
Well, it's more. It's not even just about the renewable energy sources. It's about the actual transmission system that we have, the distribution system that we also have in the country. As much as we can build power stations, which is necessary for us to build a whole lot of renewables and make sure that our coal fleet is delivering at what it needs to deliver at, we still need to fix our transmission system, and not only fix it per se, but also upgrade it so that the power that is flowing can flow bi-directionally, as well as get to the points where it needs to get. So it's not just about renewables, and I think we need to be clear that we need to build as many renewables as much as possible. But our distribution networks need help. They need to be upgraded. They need to be renovated in many instances. And then the other much more bigger issue around the large-scale industrial power plants is that the transmission network needs to get to where the power stations are. And this money and any support that we have that is coming from our development partners, from our trading partners, needs to go to making sure that the network industry, which is the transmission and the distribution network, is necessarily financed and certified in terms of maintenance as well as upgrading.
Yeah, Happy, I want to conclude with this question. It came top of mind now because we are in Women's Month and we've got 2 days to go before the end of Women's Month. I interviewed a gender activist a few weeks ago during this month about the energy sector and the women participation and role. I think it's about 16% or so of senior leadership position in the energy sector are led by women, are held by women. What's your view as BUSA in terms of transformation and ensuring that we have gender equality and there's opportunities for women in this sector? It's pretty much male dominated.
Yeah, it's pretty much male-dominated, and I think we need to make the necessary strides to make sure that transformation occurs. I mean, I think the system, including the decision-making processes, would be much stronger if we have a more diverse, if we have a more representative view, as well as a composition of decision makers within the supply, or rather within the electricity supply industry. So definitely, it's not a question of whether or not we should do more. It's that more needs to be done. And maybe the question is, why hasn't more been done? And what can we make sure, what can we do so that next year, during this time period, we're not talking about 16%, but we're talking about an exponential growth of leaders who are women, who are making decisions, and who are creating the necessary conditions of a good supply industry. I think if we had more diverse decision makers, we definitely would not be in this kind of situation.
Thank you very much, Happy Kambule of Business Unity South Africa. He's a manager there in terms of the energy sector. That's part of his daily role. More news shortly. Stay with us.